Does that mean if Michael comes as man, does the other Malachim spoken of here? So does the other Malachim spoken of here? It is a possibility. I see it as a possibility, but I don't see anything like that in scriptures like we see with Michael. Meaning, regarding Michael, we see it very clear many times in scriptures. The one of the clearest is Daniel 12:1, but there are many other verses in which we see that that Yahweh would send Michael as the prince of the people. Now, as we know, it is possible that he comes with 7 as Mashiach came with 12 disciples. He could have also 12, but because of Micah, the prophet Micah, it is believed that he may come with 7, being himself the 8th. So it is possible that those 4 could be part of those 7. I mean, those 3 in this case. I mean, just to say something, but they could come in any way as one of the 144,000 if Yahweh wanted it. But like I said, there's nothing in scriptures that I have seen yet to say that Suriel is coming for sure as a man or that Gabriel is coming for sure as a man. Although we could, okay, remember that according to Judaism, Eliyahu was an angel called Sandalphon, according to Judaism. But as we know, Michael and Gabriel are the main Malachim mentioned in scriptures. So it could be possible that they could be the 2 witnesses. It could be, because we are told about Michael being one of the 2. So that's why I said it could be. But I repeat, there's nothing in scripture that tells us explicitly that Gabriel is coming, or that Suriel or Raphael or Uriel or the other ones that we saw, Rumiel. Yet, because of what I have said in other times regarding how Malachim were not subjected to the common reality, to the common world, then they would have to come to this reality and accept Mashiach through the doctrine of Michael in order to be able to enter. So because of that, I find it possible that the Malachim of Yahweh are sent to this reality to become part of the congregation, to become part of the 144,000, for instance. Find it very, very possible. So could it be possible that they fail? When it comes to the ones of Yahweh, I wouldn't say that they fail, but it is possible that they were kicked out, and it is a bit different because the 200 angels that fell in the time of Noah fell because they rebelled against Yahweh and they didn't listen and they went against Yahweh's will. But when it comes to the Malachim that serve Yahweh, it's possible that they were kicked out of heaven because the one that got in charge of that second heaven is Halel. So it would be like when Saul wanted to kill David and anybody who was following David. So if Halel wants to kill Michael and kicks him out of heaven, perhaps he kicks him out with some of his Malachim. And I hope that doesn't confuse anybody. I'm just trying to use as a mashal the story that Yahweh gives us of David and Saul, or David and Saul, being Saul a representation of Lucifer, Halel, and David a representation of Michael. So my point is, if Yahweh is in charge of the third heaven and he gave the charge of the second heaven to Halel, the angels of Yahweh that took out Samael in the beginning of all things then were subjected to Halel because they remain in the second heaven for a job that Yahweh had for them. But then when Halel decided to rebel against the third heaven, Yahweh, anybody who was connected to Yahweh and serving Yahweh would be an enemy to Halel. So Halel would need to get rid of them. And that's when Michael said, Michael, which means who is like the mighty one. When Halel said, I will be like the mighty one. So that's the war cry of the Malach of Yahweh, Michael, who is like the mighty one. So when Michael said that, pretty much he made an enemy in Halel, who happened to be the Malach that was in charge of the second heaven. So it is one thing to rebel against the third heaven, like Samael and Halel and the 200 angels in the time of Noah. And another thing, to rebel against Halel, meaning the second heaven, and therefore it is possible that is the reason why Michael comes to earth, not as a rebel of the third heaven, but of Halel's view of how heaven should be. That's your
Is
question.
that why he presents himself here in the earth then? Is that why Yahweh foresaw, just like Yahweh foresaw Yahushua being killed, even though he wasn't supposed to? Was that what he foresaw and he used that part of the plan then? Or
Yeah, completely. That would be part of the whole thing in order to include also angels in the plan, not only humans. So it would have been, yeah, part of the whole thing. Um, and I repeat that I'm saying is pretty much the way I see it when I look into the scriptures and the stories of scriptures and the representations of each person in scriptures when we connect it to the heavenly, meaning like the main one that I said, Saul being Halel. We see a lot of connections there that shouldn't be ignored, and that's why I say that. And because in Judaism it is believed normally with no issues that angels can become humans, which in Christianity is not ever talked about. Even though people, for some reason, believe that when people die, become angels, which is not something that Scripture says. So, in Judaism, it is believed that angels can become humans. Like I said, there's a huge story regarding Sandalphon, an angel who said to Yahweh that he wanted to serve humans. So Yahweh sent him to the earth as a human. Unlike the angels that rebelled and said, we want children from humans, so we will go even if the Almighty tells us not to. So it's different, the rebellion from the desire to serve men. But we know that Lucifer and his angels do not want to serve men. They want to be served by men. So anybody, any angel that would want to serve men would be an enemy of Lucifer's plan. And that's why the whole thing that I said.
I have a question, Koresh.
Hmm?
Well, it's regarding the Malachim. What will happen to them after the final day of judgment? And what will happen with the three heavens? Will they all become one or two separate places?
Good question. The rebellious Malachim will be sent to the lake of fire. The obedient Malachim will enter, most likely, like I said, as humans that are saved, because Malachim were not subjected to the coming world, the new world and the new earth. So some will be condemned to the lake of fire for eternity, and the other ones will enter through Mashiach. Remember that humans were made in the image and likeness of Yahweh. Animals, according to the Gnostic books, and it makes a lot of sense, that's why I say it, were made in the image and likeness of the angels and the demons and every other entity. So when Noah entered the ark, he entered not only with his family, but also with the animals. So Yahushua said that the coming of the Son of Man would be like the days of Noah. So the last comes as the Son of Man, as Noah, and he will enter the ark, which is pretty much the salvation offered by Mashiach. And he will enter the ark with humans and Malachim, in a way, like to put it in a certain way. So that's how, through Mashiach and through the doctrine of the last, even the Malachim will be able to enter the other world through the ark, while many other Malachim, represented by the animals that were killed during the flood, will be sent to the lake of fire. The flood became a lake for sure. Once the whole world was filled with water, and obviously it was, well, the dome was stopping the water, so it became similar to a lake. So everything other than the ark was killed, like that which will be in the lake of fire. And when it comes to the three heavens, the second heaven has been a representation of the third, and it has worked as a connection between the third heaven and the first heaven. It has, angels have worked as connectors between Yahweh, the spirit, and humans, the flesh. But when Yahweh makes everything one, is when angels won't be needed, because this heaven won't be needed, because Yahweh will reveal himself to humans. And therefore he will, in a way, get rid of the second heaven and will unite the third and the first. The reality of the spirit and that of the flesh will make it one. So there won't be a need for a second heaven. Now, in the sense of how the second heaven has worked throughout this history, it won't be needed, so it will be taken out. But like I remember that in the time of Noah, Yahweh destroyed the whole earth, but he made a new one in the same spot when the flood happened. Yahweh says that this time he won't only shake the earth, but he will now shake the heavens and the earth. So he will make a flood that will affect also the heavens, the second heaven. So that's what I mean when I say that it will be destroyed, but it doesn't mean that it won't exist anymore, because it will be made anew. And just like the separation of the temple, the most set apart place, the set apart place, and the courtyard would be the third heaven, the second heaven, and the earth, which has a first heaven. So it won't be like it is now, because it won't be needed like we need it, or like the Almighty, like for the purpose that the Almighty made it. It will be used only, we could say, as a reality that some men will be able to enjoy, for it will be higher than the earthly reality in which the nations will be stuck. It won't be a bad reality to be stuck in, but for those who want to seek the highest realities, it will be nice to enter the second heaven and then the third heaven for those who are chosen, of course, like the most set apart place. So the way it is now, yes, it would be over with, but the spot will remain to make something new as a different reality that some people will be able to access to enjoy a higher realm. So yeah, in fact, remember that we were made in the image and likeness of the Creator. In Judaism, it is said that every person is a whole world, because from Adam came the entire world. Every human came from Adam. So a whole entire world could come from one person. And we were made in the image and likeness of he who made the world. So some believe, and it is very possible, that once we enter the next reality, Yahweh will allow us to make worlds. So imagine, like you could have the second heaven as a resort. That would be beautiful. But imagine making your own world or several worlds, and then be able to invite your friends to know those worlds. And that would mean completely different realities with completely different laws of nature, because nature will be different in each reality. So yeah, it is amazing everything that we will experience in the next reality. And that I just said is mentioned in Judaism and is interpreted from some verses of scriptures that Yahweh will allow us to make worlds. So they talk about it in the Talmud also.